فاتحة سورة فاتحة في تمام شهداء كربلاء. بسم الله. بسم الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الصلاة والسلام على خير بشرير محمود الأحمد المصطفى الأمجد حبيب الله العالمين وبالقوس بن محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الميامين صلوات الله.
اللهم صل على محمد
وآل محمد.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we have reached to the day of arbaeen. According to Islamic tradition, last night was the main night of arbaeen because the day is the half and half in Islamic tradition. Alhamdulillah, it's been everywhere. The arbaeen is, I think, in the Far East is tomorrow, and people are commemorating the 20th safar, which is the day of arbaeen. We commemorate. For the last 6 weeks, we have been discussing the sacrifice of Imam Hussein, Karbala, as a tradition. In comes Muharram, in comes the Safar. We traditionally organize these meetings, these majalis, and focus and retell the story of Karbala to ourselves, to people, and it should be our effort to introduce this concept, this tragedy of Karbala to those who do not know, those who do not want to know, those who are not aware of despite the fact that it's everywhere, on social media, on telephone or television, satellite channels, everywhere. All over the world, people are talking about the tragedy of Karbala. But despite all that, and we have been making an effort since the early days of Muharram, with a full program of 10 days, with the help of Alhamdulillah, Maulana has gave us lectures, gave us majalises, and Alhamdulillah, once again he blessed us to be with us for the chehlum. So we are grateful for him for his time and his efforts to retell the story, retell the majalises of Imam Hussein. Why retell? Why is important for retelling? Because with time, things get faded away. With time, everything in your lifetime, when you are young, you have a different experience of going to the majalises, going to the gathering of Imam Hussein. At that time, you have no bias against anything. You have not read too much about it. You just listen and you react to it. Now, as you grow old, what happens is that you accumulate knowledge. You also accumulate the knowledge which is spread about Imam Hussein by all sorts of people who perhaps are the enemy of Imam Hussein. Yes, enemy today in this day and age. We saw a horrible picture of people in Parachinar. Somebody got slaughtered alive. I was shocked to see that. I don't know how many people have seen that picture. That this man who's been blindfolded, thrown like a goat, and was slaughtered. And this year in Muharram. So it's something to be very disturbing about the world we live in, and how we cannot focus on the tragedy of Karbala. 1,400 years has passed. In detail, our effort has always been to be informed accurately so there is no confusion. There is no hyperbole. There is no, uh, you know, things that people would say, these Shia people in Muharram and Safar talk, things that do not make sense. All of that has to be carefully monitored. And it's a responsibility of ours on our shoulder to tell the world the accurate picture of 1,400 years ago. It is not a fable or storytelling information. This is a reality. It happened, and we, the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the people who belong to Ahlul Bayt, it's our forefathers who had been slaughtered. And ever since they had been sacrificing in order to protect this name and this tradition of majalis. This Muharram, Safar, and the whole experience of the war, the people who visit Imam Hussein's arbaeen, tradition of arbaeen, which is now opened up because after the fall of Saddam at Aoun, it's now traditionally a very old tradition. And that tradition is linked to the fact that people go to Imam Hussein's holy shrine to pay their homage and to pay their respect. People have right to do so. United Nations have got right for people to commemorate, to live by their tradition. And this is our tradition, this is our aqidah, this is our upbringing, to inculcate that in the younger generation and to tell them that this is not a storytelling session. These are the serious event of mankind and humanity. This major incident took place. And for that we have a tradition. For first 10 days, then following the majalises on focused on particular dates up to the point whereby the season of Muharram comes to an end in 2 weeks' time with the Safar and 8th of Rabiul Awwal in our tradition. In Arabic and Persian tradition, I think, is the end of the tradition of Safar after the month of Safar. We extend it to the 8th of Rabiul Awwal because of the Shahadat of Imam. And therefore on the 9th of Rabiul Awwal, we celebrate and we take the so-called, the sad days, the sog away from us. Because of course you have a normal life, you have a normal day-to-day living. You cannot, and it's very powerful that you continue the 2 months. For that, a lot of people object. You Shias have got 2 months to commemorate, you don't do this, you don't. It is our relation with Muharram and Safar, our relation with our Imam, Shuhada, and living by that tradition. If we have not been doing that, this tradition, these majalises would have not survived. And those who have left that tradition know the details of this tradition has to be told to the younger generation in order to relive it every year on the first calendar month of Islam. The tradition of Muharram must be practiced to the all Imams in their history, from Imam Sajjad right up to Imam Askari alayhi salam. Whenever the Muharram used to come, particularly Imam Baqir alayhi salam and Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam, organized on a grand scale these ceremonies in order for people to know what is Muharram means. And the tragedy and the sad aspect is that still, with the phone, what we have now, people do not respect that. In comes Muharram, the texts are coming, congratulations of Islamic New Year. Yeah. And I get annoyed. And I really get annoyed for those Ahl Sunnah brothers who do send it deliberately to say that, that there is no tradition anywhere in the world. We never come out and celebrated Muharram and Safar, the first Islamic calendar, as a Christian year, happy Christian year. Nobody in the world do object it by full force to say that Islamic calendars do not start with celebration. It starts with commemoration. It starts with tears, eulogies, poetry, sinazani, and commemoration of the grandson of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
صل على محمد وآل
As
محمد.
if he had no relationship with Islam, as if he had sacrificed himself, his children, everything that he had for the sake of New Year. No, this is the nizam, this is the system of Islam. That every year when the Islamic calendar starts, we start with the remembrance of the greatest tragedy mankind ever have experienced. The shortest war in the history of Islam and the history of the world, if you look at it, but longest remembered war that mankind ever known. And I try to explain that in different gatherings. We had an annual Imam Hussain conference this year in the Trinity College in the heart of Dublin. And I try to explain to non-Muslims, a lot of scholars came and all that, and we told them that in this conference we focus on the greatest tragedy for the sake of the true picture of Islam. Yes, the other Muslim community in the world, of course, believe that this is our tradition, not to, commemorate, not to remember Imam Hussain, and we do fasting. Fasting is haram on the 10th of Muharram. We do fatah. But in their tradition, this is the misinformation. The war against us is still very much alive. So therefore, in a nutshell, what I wanted to tell you, that our traditions must be conveyed correctly to the people we live with, whether they are Ahl Sunnah brothers, whether they are Christian brothers, or any other faith. And let's inform our own brothers. Because sometimes our own brothers do not have their own little circles of people who just they follow that. So in order to do that, there is no excuse these days. So much information. We launched the book Imam Hussain, and the legacy of Imam Hussain is written by a very big scholar. We launched this year. So much literature which has never been written about anybody else than Imam Hussain. Non-Christian, non-Muslims, Christians are writing about Imam Hussain. Whenever they came to know about it, they write about it. And therefore my request to everybody is, what is your personal mission to do something about Imam Hussain on the month of Muharram and in the month of Safar? Create a poetry, create a mission, create a project, write something, create a website, create in today's language, some sort of propagation. You got to propagate Imam Hussain to the mankind, because this is what's dear to our hearts. And a day like this today, the history of Karbala. Karbala has got a history, an accurate history should be in front of our eyes. There should be no confusion in the history. After about almost a year, and a year passed by, when the prisoners of war, Bibi Zainab Salamullah alayh, Imam Sajjad, all of them spent humiliation and hardship all the way from Karbala to Sham to Kufa to Sham, and then returned back to Karbala on this day, on the arbaeen. And therefore a lot of people are traveling, walking, imitating that incident and that story. After spending almost a year, people realized the greatest tragedy occurred in the history of Islam, and therefore the slaughtering of the grandson of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all their companions and their family. It is the greatest tragedy that Yazid, Mal'un, Umayyad have inflicted upon the Al Rasul, the family of Prophet. And when that information, correct information, went around the people, because people were ignorant. When they arrived at the palace of Yazid, they did not know who these people were. They were throwing stones, they were throwing hot water, they were throwing fire on them, because they've been declared as uprisers against the ruler. And that was the punishment the rulers have given to them. So when the people came to know in reality what was the fact, they started mutiny. People start talking about it, and Yazid got panicked. And eventually he had to release them, he had to agree to release them. After almost about another year, following year, this happened around this time of the year. But in this time, many things happened. As one of the poetry you were listening to, Bibi Sakita, passed away inside the prison. She could not make it back to Medina. She could not make it back to Karbala. And she used to ask that when we will go home to his brother, Imam Sajjad, every time the evening comes and she will see the birds going away, because those prisons were not the type of prison we have today. It was open air prison. The tradition was very bad at that time to keep the prisoners. And she used to say where they're going, and Imam Sajjad used to say they're going home. It's evening time. And she said, when we will go home, Imam Sajjad used to say, yes, we will go home, but unfortunately she could not make it. And she passed away, and she was buried inside the prison of Yazid. After that, they reached Karbala. When the most important person that we must talk about it today, on this day of arbaeen, is the man who first heard about this. The companion of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Jabir ibn Abdullah Ansari. The companion who knew Amir al-Mu'mineen, the companion who knew Imam Hussein. And when he came to know Ala Qutil al-Hussein of Karbala, he left everything and he rushed towards Karbala. And he reaches to Karbala, the first man, first Zaire in the history of mankind to reach Karbala and recite the ziyarat of Arbaeen for Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein receives him in, of course, in spirituality rather than physical form. And he says that Jabir, Ya Jabir, you have done the greatest duty to visit me on this condition. I am not in position to offer you anything, but you have fulfilled your love for my grandfather, for my father, and for me. Now leave Jabir, I can see my sister Zainab, Salamullah alayhi, is coming. Zainab is coming, my son Sajjad is coming. They're all coming to meet us and to bury us. They have been given back. One of the conditions of the release was that the heads of the Shuhada have been given back to them. The property that was looted to them was given back to them. And they should have been given a house for a whole week or few months or whatever exact date to commemorate. And so Bibi Zainab Salamullah alayhi to pay homage to the brother and tell the local community of Shab that look what happened to us. And those majalises created by Bibi Zainab Salamullah alayhi have been proven to be the most effective majalises. And after that, with those heads, they reach to Karbala and they reach to those graves. The people of Bani Asad, who were the local people, received them and told them that where the graves are. And Imam Sajjad then buried the Shuhada's head with those who were severed. And eventually they returned back to Medina. When they returned back to Medina, Riwayat says, the history says that Imam Sajjad made a request to Bashir Nu'man. He says that go and announce that we are coming back to our homeland. They belong to Medina. They were uprooted from Medina. And when Bashir actually announces that Imam Sajjad is coming back, the caravan of Hussein is coming back, and one lady comes along and she says that, which caravan? Which Hussein is not there? Ala Qutil al Hussein bi Karbala, when Bashir announced that, he said, why my son Abbas was not with him? And this lady was Baneen. Baneen came to receive this caravan, to say that how can Hussein can be killed, shuhada, become shuhada when Abbas was not around. And he said, no, Abbas has lost his arms. Has also was become a shuhada on the 10th day of the Ashura. So this is the gravest tragedy for mankind ever history has experienced. And it is our duty to remember, to retell the story. And after that, Imam Sajjad lived in Medina for 35 years. Remember his father. Remember what happened each Muharram. Each 10th of Muharram, you will see him making gestures and remembering his father, remembering his tragedy. So chehlum, 40th day is a very important day. Arbaeen is a very important day in the history of Shi'as and history of Islam that we commemorate with full passion until, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us another year to commemorate Imam Hussein next year, we will continue to do so. And this is towards the end of our, perhaps the tradition of Sog, as we call it in Urdu, the tradition of sad season, which will be lifted in 2 weeks' time at the end of Safar. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah ala rahmatullahi wa
Salli ala